We'll call this meeting of Lima City Council to order. We're going to begin tonight's meeting with the invocation by Councilor Adams, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
As we open this meeting, Lord, we want to give you honor to you and thank you, God, for the time we have tonight to discuss issues and make decisions. May you bless each person who took time to gather here tonight, and let your hand of protection be on them throughout the rest of the week. Let the work done here tonight come to fruition, and let all be for your glory. Help us each to do our part to bring the plans discussed to life. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. Gordon?
Here.
Mr. McLean?
Here.
Mr. Lowe?
Here.
Ms. Crayer?
Here.
Miss Adams?
Here.
Mr. Glenn?
Here.
Ms. Miles?
Here.
And Mr. Nixon.
Here. There are no amendments to tonight's agenda. Under privilege of the floor, we have Jill Ackerman, Superintendent of the Lima City Schools, regarding renewal levy.
Well, good evening, and thank you for having me. I will be very brief, but first of all, I wanted to come and, on behalf of the Board of Education, express our gratitude for your support of our renewal levy that we first passed in 2012, and it was a 5.99 mil combined levy, which consisted of operating money and permanent improvement money, some of which we hadn't had in a very long time. So I could stand here and tell you how we bought lawnmowers and buses and paid parking lots, but I really didn't want to do that. What I did want to tell you was in this 5-year period, in all of my tenure with the Lima City Schools, we have never had an opportunity to do some of the things that we've been able to do for kids in these last 5 years. Some of which would be the installation of a digital academy for over 50 students to be able to have an online learning experience. It's our first year for it, and we're very excited it's up and running. We've been able to replace our textbook curriculums and include a digital component to that as well. One of the things that we've never been able to do in the past is offer a 5-day training for our teachers prior to the beginning of the school year, and mandatory for all brand new teachers to the Lima City Schools. Things such as trauma-informed care, skillful teaching, ALICE, active shooter response training, technology training, and curriculum training. So 5 solid days of training, voluntary for our staff, in which we had over hundreds of people participate. We were very blessed to do that and make it mandatory for our new staff so that they could become more easily acclimated to our culture. We have also been able to purchase new band uniforms for a band that has grown by over 50%. Our Closing the Achievement Gap program, we have expanded that to include an additional female component, as well as we started that as a 9th grade program, and then we dropped it down to 7th and 8th grade, and now we've been able to expand it into the 5th and 6th grade at Lima North Middle School as well. Our 9th grade students are now enjoying a little bit of more of a secluded environment at the high school, where they have the opportunity to be taught in a co-teaching environment with a special education specialist and a regular education teacher, who are able to go through a lot of training in co-teaching and co-planning to deliver intensive education with differentiation to meet all their learning styles as well. And then we're also very pleased that we were able to expand our school resource officer program. We now have 5 full-time school resource officers offering about 15 different programs throughout the Lima City Schools, focusing on promoting character and also recognizing good behavior. So we're excited about that. Our summer police academy doubled in size this summer, so we're going to continue to do that work as well. But it was just important for me to come and tell you about the things that are happening for kids. The roofs and the windows and all that stuff is important, but what we're doing for children is what's the most important, and we appreciate the support so that we can continue to do that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, under privilege of the floor, is Tim Guthrie.
Tim Guthrie, Lima, Ohio. Well, everybody knows I went to 2 finance meetings, and I heard some things that I didn't think were right. First of all, that Teresa and Ann thought that Dave Berger should get more money simply because he's been mayor for 27 years. That's ridiculous. You said it. You both said it. Now here's some facts. Dave Berger made in the last 12 years $1,388,000 in 12 years. The mayor of Findlay made $834,000 in 12 years. That's $554,000 more than the Findlay mayor. Now John Tebben, he was in it up to his eyeballs with Berger, getting him the big raises, the never-ending automatic pay raises, and he's gone for that reason. Fourth Ward, those people get it. That's why Becca's here. And I'm thankful for that. Now, Teresa and Ann, I like you ladies, but you got it wrong. You sound like you're standing with Berger when it's your fiduciary obligation to go with the taxpayers. We pay everybody's salaries. And for you to say that Berger should get more money, Sam says he did his research. In a town the size of Lima, 37,000, that $85,000 is a just amount for the mayor. So I'm going with Sam, $85,000 a year, no automatic pay raises. It's fair, and that should be it. No longevity. Dave Berger's made all the money he needs to make. He could actually work for free the next 4 years and still be ahead of the mayor. And $85,000 a year, that's $340,000 for 4 years. And has things got that bad in Lima that that's chump change? There are people on city council act like it's chump change, $340,000 for 4 years. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. Next is the consent calendar.
Mr. President.
You're not on the agenda. I'm sorry. Linda,
Mr. President,
Miss Adams.
I move that item A be received, filed, and approved.
Second.
Motion the second is that item A be received, filed, and approved. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. Communication number 1.
From the Director of Community Development regarding legislation to place tax assessments.
Mr. President,
Ms. Crayer.
I move that communication number 1 be received and filed.
Second.
The motion the second is to receive and file communication number 1. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. Communication number 2.
From the Director of Community Development regarding legislation to place demolition assessments.
Mr. President,
Ms. Crayer.
I move that communication number 2 be received and filed.
Second.
The motion the second is to receive and file communication number 2. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. Communication number 3.
From the Finance Director regarding legislation for budget amendments.
Mr. President,
Ms. Adams.
I move that communication number 3 be received, filed. Legislation is on tonight's agenda.
Second.
The motion the second is to receive and file communication number 3. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. Communication number 4.
From Chief Martin regarding legislation to enter into a contract with Creative Microsystems, Inc.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles.
I move that communication number 4 be received and filed.
Second.
The motion the second is to receive and file communication number 4. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. Communication number 5.
From Chief Black regarding legislation to purchase equipment from Warren Fire Equipment.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles.
I move that communication number 5 be received and filed.
Second.
The motion the second is to receive and file communication number 5. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. Communication number 6.
From Chief Black regarding legislation to apply for assistance to firefighters grant.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles?
I move that communication number 6 be received and filed.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 6. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Communication number 7.
From the Director of Human Resources regarding legislation to enter into contracts for healthcare services.
Mr. President,
Mr. Glenn.
I move the communication number 7, receive and file legislation on my agenda.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 7. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. Communication number 8.
From the CBB requesting renewal of their agreement with the City of Lima.
Mr. President,
Ms. Adams?
I move that communication number 8 be received and filed, and the law director be authorized to prepare any necessary legislation to comply with the request.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 8 and to authorize any necessary legislation. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. Communication number 9.
From the Ohio Division of Liquor Control regarding new permit Hollander on Main, 134, 150 North Main Street.
Mr. President,
Mr. Lowe.
I move that communication number 9 be received and filed, and the council secretary notify the Ohio Division of Liquor Control with no objection.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 9 and to authorize the clerk of council to notify the Ohio Division of Liquor Control of no objection. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. Communication number 10.
From the Director of Utilities and Director of Public Works requesting legislation to enter into contract for bulk fuel purchases for 2017.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon?
I move that communication number 10 be received and filed and authorize the law director to prepare the necessary legislation.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 10 and to authorize the law director to prepare the necessary legislation. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. Communication number 11.
From the Director of Public Works regarding legislation to accept a contribution from St. Rita's Health Partners.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon.
I move that communication number 11 be received and filed.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 11. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. Communication number 12.
From the City Engineer regarding legislation to enter into a contract with Smith Bond Mechanical Services.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon.
I move that communication number 12 be received and filed.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 12. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. Communication number 13.
From the Law Director regarding legislation for a moratorium on telecommunications equipment.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon.
I move that communication number 13 be received and filed and also refer this issue to the Public Works Committee.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 13 and to refer it to Council's Public Works Committee. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. Next, we have reports of officials. Mr. Rick Stolley with the summer wrap-up.
Good evening. Thank you, President. Members of council, it's great to be here again tonight. Usually we do this in September, but here we are in October due to some scheduling conflicts, but it gives us a little better read on some of the events of the summer. First of all, our playground program, we hosted nearly 200 folks participating in that program again this year. We had some terrific leaders again participating with the kids at Robb, Froat, and Lincoln Parks. Again, what a great opportunity for people in this community to get out, bring their kids to a day camp and enjoy things like science and tech projects. We do wellness, social skills, all the things that come with the playground program. And I think back when I participated in that program many years ago, While it's a little bit different now, it's still serving the same purposes. So we're looking to expand that program in 2017 in a couple of ways, and as those things come together, we'll keep you informed. Our youth tennis program, in partnership with LATA, had over 130 kids on a regular basis, which was a lot of fun, playing up there at College Street for most of the summer until we started resurfacing the courts, and we moved out to UNOH and then back. So that was a great opportunity to, again, introduce the game of tennis to an awful lot of folks. Our youth softball and baseball programs hosted over 130 games with 81 teams participating, which is a terrific amount of folks involved in that event. Those events with softball and baseball. Our adult leagues had 220 plus games and over 31 teams. So again, we even presented as a group that wanted to come back and play this fall. They're playing down on Diamond 2 on Wednesday nights, which is terrific. Schoonover Pool, again, very busy place this summer. Over 7,000 folks attending during that time. Star Spangled Spectacular, dances in the park. Carolyn Dietrich does a terrific job for those Friday night events out at Lincoln. Concerts in the Park series with Bart Mills. They expanded a little bit this year and introduced a Labor Day event and had terrific attendance on Sunday evenings as well. So Rally in the Square on Friday nights. All those opportunities of people in this community coming together to use the facilities that Lima has to offer is just a terrific way, in my opinion, and of folks getting out and enjoying what Lima has. And we're very blessed to be able to do that. In our partnership with the Y, T-ball, soccer, flag football, of course our partnerships with the local high schools, Lima Senior and LCC, using our facilities including Simmons Field, the tennis courts, and then cross country at Froat Park with both schools. Matter of fact, just 2 weeks ago, the track, the Three Rivers Athletic Conference hosted their league meet there at Froat Park. The Allen County meet was held there again this year with just another great showing. So our facilities are being used not just by local folks, but people coming into Lima, and a great opportunity for us to showcase those facilities. The Locos had another terrific season. Over 21,000 people showed up at Simmons Field this year to watch Locos baseball. They were either first or second, averaging 842 people a night to watch them play. Again, great opportunities to bring visitors to the community and show people from the outside what Lima is about, what we do, and some of those things. Now, all those things are going on. While that's happening, we're still charged with maintaining about 380 acres of land throughout the city in all of our parks, and that's an awful lot to get done with a lot of help from very highly motivated staff of people in the rec department, and of course our maintenance folks, and of course the rangers. All those folks working together to make sure that the experiences that people have when they come to Lima and use our facilities are positive ones. We also have a lot of help from neighborhood associations, church organizations, Eagle Scout projects, people who want to give back to the parks, and we always encourage that. And so those are also opportunities where people want to, again, take what is here and make it just a little bit better. What we got in front of us coming up is our basketball program for both boys and girls. Those signups are going on now. That season will begin December 3rd and run through the end of February with the tournament. We project about 80 teams being involved in that event, in that program for the winter months. And come the spring, I'll give you an update on that. Just one reminder, again, this Thursday, Trick or Treat Night. We announced that a few meetings ago. That's an organized effort by Lima and the surrounding townships. We're all on the same night. That's Thursday the 27th this year. Again, just remind people that time is 6 to 8 p.m. if you want to remind folks. So ask people to watch for the kids in the neighborhoods. Adults kind of stay with them, pay attention to what's going on. If you're planning to be involved, please turn your porch light on. Let people know that you're participating in the event. Again, another safe opportunity for parents and kids to get out and enjoy a time treasured tradition here in Lima. That's it for right now. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If not,
Mr. President.
Mr. Glenn, just a second. Can you say that fast 3 times?
what's that?
Time treasured tradition?
Sure,
I can't say it.
I can.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes, I just want to say something about the locals game, and I appreciate all the folks that came out and supported our locals. You know, it was like they did a great job, and the kids had fun, and everyone I talked to when I came to the game, they was talking about what a great field we have there, what kind of work they put in it, and it just showed Class A there, you know, and how the performance they did. We did real good, and hopefully next year we'll be back there again. But what they had planted a good seed there with the entertainment wise.
It's quite a reciprocal opportunity, Dr. Glenn, when you talk about these things that are, these people go back to their communities, whether they're from California or Alabama or Georgia or the Carolinas, and they talk about Lima. Those are the things, you know, and they want to come back and play. As a matter of fact, I heard some of the invitations going out to the folks who were here last summer want to come back because of the experience they've had here, not just with the team, but with the Lima experience, which really is something special. And being able to have housed kids for the last 10 or 11 years with this program, I got to tell you, that's a pretty true story that rings throughout the ranks. So as they go on in their careers. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stolly.
Appreciate it.
Next is Chief Martin and Lieutenant Green.
Mr. President, members of council, I am wanting to say tonight that being a cop is absolutely one of the most incredible jobs anybody can work. And of all the aspects of our job, what makes it so incredible so often is the opportunity to reach out into the lives of young people and make a positive impact. And I will say that it's enjoyable for us because the young people still pretty much give us rock star status when they're interacting with us. And whether it's activities like the event just this past weekend at Hobart Park, rather, that was organized in part by Mr. Glenn, the opportunity I had this morning to speak at Heritage Elementary School to the student body to help them kick off their Red Ribbon campaign, or the survival training that we put on for kids throughout the community. We have an opportunity to really involve ourselves with kids and to make that positive impact going forward. And one of the things that we've done over the years in regards to reaching out to kids has been to go out on trick-or-treat, and I have really come to enjoy this. My wife goes out with me and helps me hand out the treats and the stickers to the kids as we come in contact with them. But one of the things that's happened with that is because of our social media presence, the kids have been really excited about getting their picture taken with me in their costumes and me, of course, in my costume. But as we get their pictures taken and we put that on Facebook, we have just had an incredible response from the kids, from their parents, and from our Facebook followers. And so as a result of that, Lieutenant Green actually came up with an idea, and he's developed it in a way that I think is going to have an even more positive impact and help us to continue that reaching out to kids, which again isn't just so that we can feel good about ourselves, but really more importantly, so that we can help to teach kids that if they need something, if they're in trouble, they should run to us and not run away from us. And since Lieutenant Green is actually the one who came up with the idea and has developed it, I'm going to ask him to explain it now.
Mr. President, members of council, thank you for having me here. The chief explained most of that, the reason why we're doing this. I started looking around Facebook and looked at different police agencies across the country, and I saw that it was a very common theme for police officers to go out on trick-or-treat night, not only to be out there to protect people who are doing trick-or-treating, make sure people are being safe, walking on the sidewalks, drivers are going slow enough to keep the kids safe that are going from door to door, but also to just network with the community and be a friendly face in the neighborhood for kids and family members to see. One thing that I didn't see, though, is anything more than that. So it was more of just officers being present and and maybe handing out some candy. I decided after the chief went out and did trick-or-treating and had the positive response that he had with all the photos, that we would do a photo contest. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to accompany the chief with a couple of officers when he does go out on trick-or-treat night here in the city, and we are going to take photos of kids and families in their Halloween costumes as they're trick-or-treating with the chief. And once we've compiled all those, we're going to put them on our Facebook and our Instagram feed, and we're going to allow people to vote on them, and we're going to come up with a winner. So it's going to be fun. It's going to allow us to be out there and spend some time with kids and have a good time with them. And as the chief said, for them to see that we're not just police officers out there enforcing violations. We are a friendly face. We are somebody that they can come to when they need help, not run away from us. So just the real basics of how this is going to work. We're going to take the photos. We're going to gather contact information from the people who are in the photos and family members and get their authorization to use the photos. Then we will post all of them to our Facebook page so everybody can see what they are. Then the members of my social media team, we're going to narrow it down to 3 finalists on a vote. And those 3 finalists we are going to bring back. Well, I guess before that, we're going to select the winner, right? So we're going to take those 3 finalists and we're going to put them back on Facebook and Instagram. And of those 3 photos, the one with the most likes, because we're on social media, right? So the one with the most likes is going to be declared the winner. We're going to bring all 3 of them, and we're going to bring them back here to the mayor's weekly media briefing. And we're going to introduce them and let them wear their Halloween costumes up there for everybody to see. And we're going to offer them a tour of the police department, show them around, show them what we do. We're going to give them a challenge coin from the police department. And then the grand prize winner is going to be treated to lunch by Chief Martin and Mayor Berger at a restaurant of their choosing. So it's going to be a good time. We're hoping that a lot of people show up to that. We're getting started a little bit early. I know trick or treat starts at 6 o'clock, 6 to 8. We're actually going to get started at 5 o'clock, and we're going to start at the Lima Police Department right in front of station. And we're going to ask people to come there, and we'll be there for about a half hour for people to come and take photos in front of the station. Then we're going to move to the Precinct 2 Community Substation on Kibbe Street, and we'll be there until 6 o'clock, until right around 6 o'clock or just after. And then we're going to move up north to the Precinct 1 COP substation on Metcalf. We'll be there for a half hour, and then we're going to move to the area around Lakewood and Woodlawn and walk that neighborhood there. And then we will finish up at the Precinct 3 COP substation. So it'll give people a chance, if they came to all 3 places, I guess, to see the COP substations, but kind of draw some attention to those as well while we do this. Pending any questions, I do have some photos that I wanted to show you. Maybe kind of hard to see, but. So this is a photo that we took last year. This is the chief with a couple happy kids. And another one. So these all gained a very positive response on Facebook, and I think it's just good community relations for us to be out there in the public, allowing people to see us. One more. So they're all pretty good. Pending any questions, Mr. President, that's all I have.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Appreciate it. Next is the reports of committees, the Finance Committee. Ms. Adams?
Thank you, Mr. President. Lima Finance Committee met, and I need to correct my report, the date on it. It's October 17th, 2016, and I will provide a new copy to the clerk. The members present was myself as chair, Sam McLean, and Ann Miles. The meeting was held in council chamber at 6 p.m. The agenda was the mayor's salary. The chair had done a review of what had been discussed in previous committee meetings to bring everyone up to date and to clarify some misunderstandings and interpretations. Upon that review, the chair made a motion to freeze the salary at its rate that it'll be at the end of this term next year at $135,387 for the mayor's position for the entire term of the next term of 2018 through 2021, and in addition, remove the CPI increase the final 2 years. It was seconded by Councilor Miles. The chair opened for discussion. A discussion followed. Various things were discussed, and the chair, upon getting point of order, clarification, went back to the original motion, and it was voted on, passed 2-1, with the no vote being Councilor McLean. The motion was then made by Councilor McLean to adjourn at 7:15, passed 3-0. I respectfully submit this, and I move that the committee report be received, filed, and approved.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive, file, and approve. The committee report is submitted by Councilor Adams. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Next is Resolution 916.
A resolution supporting the Lima City Schools 5.99 mil renewal levy.
Mr. President,
Mr. Lowe.
I move that Resolution 916 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass Resolution adopt Resolution 916 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? I'll have the clerk call the roll
Do you want it read?
after reading the resolution.
Might be a
How's
nice
that?
idea so they can hear that we're supporting it. Thank you. Whereas on November 8th, 2016, there will be a 5.99 mil renewal levy for the Lima City School District on the election ballot. And whereas this is a renewal of an existing levy, this levy is not a new tax and will not cost taxpayers any additional money. And whereas the levy raises money for the general operations of the district as well as permanent improvements, which include maintaining buildings and updating technology. And whereas this levy is necessary for the Lima City schools to continue to operate at their current levels and to continue to have a positive impact on the children of this community. And whereas the Lima City Council desire to formally support the Lima City School District 5.99 mil renewal levy. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Lima, Ohio, 2/3 of the members elected thereto concurring, that the Lima City Council finds that the 5.99 mil renewal levy for the Lima City School District is vitally important to the children of Lima and urges the voting citizenry of the City of Lima to vote yes on November 8, 2016.
Thank you. Now I'll have you call the roll.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
Yes.
Counselor Lowe?
Yes.
Counselor Craig?
Yes.
Resolution 916 has been adopted on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Next is Ordinance 216.
This is a third reading, authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the Button Bush Trail Project, Project 9-16.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon.
I move that ordinance 216 be passed on its third reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass Ordinance 216 on its third reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
No.
Counselor Lowe?
No.
Counselor Craig?
Yes.
Ordinance 216 has been passed on its third reading by a 6-2 vote. Ordinance 218-16.
Levying special assessments for property maintenance code charges on premises in the city of Lima, Ohio.
Mr. President,
Ms. Creer?
I move that ordinance 218-16 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 21816 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
Yes.
Counselor Lowe?
Yes.
Counselor Crayer?
Yes.
Ordinance 21816 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 21916.
Amending the 2016 annual budget.
Mr. President,
Ms. Adams.
I move that ordinance 219-16 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 21916 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
Yes.
Counselor Lowe?
Yes.
Counselor Crayer?
Yes.
Ordinance 21916 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 22016.
Authorizing the mayor to accept a donation from St. Rita's Health Partners.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon.
I move that ordinance 220-16 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 22016 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
Yes.
Counselor Lowe?
Yes.
Counselor Crayer?
Yes.
Ordinance 22016 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 22116.
Authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Smith Bond Mechanical Services.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon.
I move that ordinance 221-16 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 22116 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
Yes.
Counselor Lowe?
Yes.
Counselor Crayer?
Yes.
Ordinance 22116 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 22216.
Authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Creative Microsystems, Inc.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles.
I move that ordinance number 22216 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 22216 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
Yes.
Counselor Lowe?
Yes.
Counselor Crayer?
Yes.
Ordinance 22216 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 22316.
Authorizing the mayor to apply for, accept, receive, and administer an assistance to firefighters grant.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles.
I move that ordinance number 22316 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 22316 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
Yes.
Counselor Lowe?
Yes.
Counselor Crayer?
Yes.
Ordinance 22316 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 22416.
Authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Warren Fire Equipment, Inc.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles.
I move that ordinance number 224-16 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 22416 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
Yes.
Counselor Lowe?
Yes.
Counselor Crayer?
Yes.
Ordinance 22416 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 22516.
Authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Medical Mutual of Ohio for medical claims, stop-loss coverage, and vision care as part of the city's employee health care benefit plan.
Mr. President,
Mr. Glenn.
I move that ordinance 22516 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 22516 on its first reading. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Lowe.
the next four ordinances are contracts, but none of us as counselors have received anything stating the percentage that employers are going to pay into this or anything. Can somebody come forward and explain to us? We have no.
Mr. Ogier?
Mr. President, the definition of what employees contribute for their health benefits is in the labor agreement for each of the different labor contracts that we have.
So it hasn't went up.
And then it's defined by, for those that are not in a labor agreement, it's defined by the parity ordinance, which really relates them back to the ASME labor agreements.
So has it went up?
Went up relative to when?
Last year, this right here is gonna lock us in for 3 years.
That was correct. It depends on which labor agreement you're talking about. The ASME agreement expires at the end of this year. We'll be actually entering into negotiations with them probably in the next month. And that will define what employees are going to pay for 17, 18, and 19 likely, because normally it's a 3-year agreement. And then it varies by labor contract, because like we just entered into agreement with the park rangers starting actually for this year, in April of this year. So that'll define the next 3-year period. And the employee contributions amounts are defined in those labor agreements relative to what the cost of health insurance is. It's a formula is what it is. So that's how it works. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ogier.
Sure.
Is there any further discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
Yes.
Counselor Lowe?
Yes.
Counselor Crayer?
Yes.
Ordinance 225-16 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 226-16.
Authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Delta Dental for provisions of dental services as part of the city's employee health care benefit plan.
Mr. President,
Mr. Glenn.
I move that ordinance 22616 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 226-16 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
Yes.
Counselor Lowe?
Yes.
Counselor Crayer?
Yes.
Ordinance 226-16 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 227-16.
Authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with CVS Caremark for provision of pharmacy benefit management services as part of the city's employee health care benefit plan.
Mr. President,
Mr. Glenn.
I move that ordinance 22716 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 227-16 on its first reading. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President, I have one question there.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes, Vince, this mean they just go to CVS only, or they still have a choice?
Mr. President?
Mr. Ogier.
Mr. Glenn, no, they can go to really any pharmacy. CVS Caremark is just the pharmacy benefit management company.
So they didn't want to handle
Yeah,
that?
right. They can go to the CVS, but then they can go to Rite Aid or just really whatever pharmacy they want.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ogier. Thank you, Mr. Glenn. Is there any further discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
Yes.
Counselor Lowe?
Yes.
Counselor Crayer?
Yes.
Ordinance 227-16 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 228-16.
Levying a special assessment for demolition charges for dangerous structures in the city of Lima, Ohio.
Mr. President,
Ms. Crayer.
I move that ordinance 228-16 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 228-16 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
Yes.
Counselor Lowe?
Yes.
Counselor Crayer?
Yes.
Ordinance 228-16 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 229-16.
Establishing a 120-day moratorium upon the approval of any application for construction of and/or modifications to telecommunication apparatus and facilities within the right-of-way of the city.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon.
I move that ordinance 229-16 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 229-16 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
Yes.
Counselor Lowe?
Yes.
Counselor Crayer?
Yes.
Ordinance 229-16 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 23016.
Authorizing a change to the rate of pay for the position of mayor pursuant to City Charter, Section 67.
Mr. President,
Ms. Adams?
I move that ordinance 230-16 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 23016 on its first reading. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Adams?
thank you. As chair of the committee, the Finance Committee, I'd like to start by saying, first of all, I think it's ironic, after hearing what was said earlier this evening, that wanting to see more pay, that this committee is the first and only that has taken steps to remove 3% automatic increases to all elected officials and to the administration. And that step has not been taken in the past year since this original ordinance was passed in 2004 that set this progression in motion. I have also stressed at numerous meetings that we are talking the position and not the person that holds the position. I have stressed that. We could have had 3 mayors in this 12-year period, and we would still be at this number of 135,000. And I felt the best way to stop it from growing any further is to put a freeze on it, remove the CPI from it for the next 4 years, starting in 2017, or 2018's term. And we have the city charter that has language in it currently. That is going to be reviewed next year by a committee formed by the president and by probably our recommendations who will serve on it. I'm hoping at that time some language can be developed to put this in the hands of the voters. And something can be done that will make this correction. Council created this monster in 2004. It has been let go until this current year by a motion made to the committee. And we have, like I said earlier, have removed this 3% across the board. And at no time in removing it from other positions has there ever been a discussion to reduce their salaries, that they were making too much, because they progressed at the same rate as the mayors. No one acted to cut their position, their pay. So again, I feel that the freeze is appropriate going forward to allow the discussion to occur under the city charter to where a more permanent, fair solution can be resolved. I feel the salary currently is high enough. That's why I'm proposing the freeze. To base it on population, that's another way of looking at it. I've heard, then we get into, we have to decide what we want as a city. Do we want a ceremonial mayor that is there to cut ribbons, kiss babies, shake hands with visitors to the city, and then have to hire a city manager? Or do we want the current situation we have now under the charter? Again, under the charter. If that is the case, a ceremonial mayor, but then we have to pay for a city manager position. It has been brought up in the committee that our population at one time was at over 53,000. And that person felt the mayor was responsible for the drop in that population. That was in 1970, was the height of that population. The mayor took office in 1990, and the population had dropped in that 20-year period down to 45,549, a little over 8,000. In the past 25 years, the population has continued to drop. Over 25 years of over 7,600 additional losses. But in those 25 years, we have also had the closing of the prison, which was a very large portion of that population. And that sent ramifications throughout this city to restaurants, vendors, suppliers. I hope council will find it to support this tonight. And I want to also say, in the committee, along with the removal of the 3% and the introduction of the CPI, Consumer Price Index, which incidentally was only 0.2% based on last year going forward into this year. That was the only increase that the people received that have already been affected by this 3% removal. And the legislation that we all passed in 2014. We also took action in reducing, going forward, any vacancies that that open up in the future, that the administration can only offer up to 90% of that salary, at that present salary, upon vacancy. So again, that is trying to stop the increasing of the payroll. We're talking about a $140 million budget, $30 million general budget. And of this, of the mayor's salary, of the administration's salary, including the police chief and their people and the fire chief and his crew, we're talking 0.72 of 1% out of the budget. Do I feel action needed to be taken? Yes. And I feel that the committee has taken appropriate actions, responsible actions, and look forward to the city charter next year and working with that committee. But there are members on this council that have made it personal of the person that sits in that chair presently. I have tried to emphasize it doesn't matter who's sitting there. It would be what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Glenn?
I just have a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to commend the financial committee for working on this. I know I'm one of the council members on 2004. Yes, I'm one of the ones that doesn't like high salaries at all, but we got to get it through the charter. We got an opportunity to let the voters come out and take care of this and make this change that we need to change. And so it's so important that we can do this. You can put the population in there. You can put whatever you need to put in there. What you can put in there every time is a new mayor. Every 4 years, we're going to go look at the salary. These are the ingredients that we can put in there and make it happen in that situation there. But it did get out of hand. You know, some people might say no, but we does not have a city manager either. I know I was talking to some folks this past weekend about the mayor's salary. And after we sat there, and one lady said he make more than Dayton mayor make, but she didn't understand they had a city manager. They're paying $100,000 a year. The mayor's part-time. You know, look at all these different things. Some of these cities' mayors not part-time at all. They're part-time. They make a certain amount of money due to a city manager in place. So if you guys want a city manager, that's what we need to put in the charter. That we're gonna start electing us a city manager, we're gonna appoint a city manager or hire a city manager. These are some of the things we gotta look at. And a lot of folks doesn't know about the city manager aspect because they don't get to see the city manager in these big cities a lot. You see the mayor a lot, you know. And they don't have a president of city council, they have commissioners. So, you know, different city in different places. If I know one mayor say, well, Dave Berger make more money than any mayor in the state of Ohio. But you gotta explain why Dave make more money. We have an unterm limit. No, we don't have no term limit, okay? So, that means continue working. I was sitting there talking to one of our council members about my salary when I started off in the state of Ohio. It was $901. When I finished, way triple more than that. And some people say, wow, they're getting paid too much money. They don't do like the work like the COs do. So we had that problem too. But I came through all the contracts. Did 31 years. I deserve that. That's what you guys gave me. I didn't ask for it. That's what the contract said I get, 3%, 4%. If I be there so long, my education, I get more percent there. All that ingredients gave me that. So these are some of the things that we got to set down, make sure that we take it to the voters. The committee will need to be on there and make sure these things go out. But it's very important. It's very important now that we got to look at these salaries and how we're going to handle it so the voters can get it. So the people out there who are talking about it, they get a golden opportunity to vote how we should be giving salaries to elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glenn. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles?
after serving on the committee, you know, it was a learning session for me, with learning the background of the salaries and the charter limitations and so forth. But I believe that the decision that was made by the committee was a first step only. It is not a cure-all for what everyone is talking about as far as the higher salary. It's a first step to start addressing this problem. The next one, as has been stated tonight here, is to address the charter so that it can be changed here. And this is something that I believe that we as a council, whatever committee is set up, this should be the priority to change the charter going forward here so that members of the community would be involved in, because they will be involved in voting for the changes, for the change to happen. And so again, I believe the attempt for the finance committee was to not resolve it going forward here, but it was just to not allow the salaries to get any higher than what it is for the next term. And I believe, in my perspective, all the different things that we talked about here, this was the one that we could do and not cause a lot of harm going forward here. And so again, as a committee, I would suggest that we, as a council, not just the committees, that we decide going forward here, how do we resolve this issue of the mayor's position not being differentiated between a current mayor and then a new mayor as far as the salary. You know, many people say that, you know, that Mayor Berger, that the mayor's position, again, no name, the position based on what is done has been earned over years. And to have someone brand new coming in, new, to get the same salary, even though it's the same position, many people think that's not fair. And so again, these are things that we as a committee, as a whole, need to make this our priority going forward, to look at this and see what we can do to make it equitable for that position. Again, when you compare to other cities, there is no apples to apples. You know, unless you go there and sit in that administration and see exactly how it is ran, see what the responsibilities are, what the duties are, we cannot decide one city over another city pays more or less. And so again, I hope that we can be united as a council, and that we can let this just be the first start of continuing efforts to reduce the mayor's salary going forward here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Miles. Is there any further discussion? I'll have the clerk call the roll.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Glenn?
Yes.
Counselor Miles?
Yes.
Counselor Nixon?
Yes?
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor McLean?
No.
Counselor Lowe?
No.
Counselor Creighton?
No.
Ordinance 23016 has been unsuccessful in getting the 2/3 required to pass tonight. It will go on second reading. That's it for the agenda. Miscellaneous business. Ms. Adams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to acknowledge Counselor Glenn's efforts in the ceasefire activity gathering that was this past Saturday at Hoover Park. Wish it could have been a little sunnier,
Warmer,
a
too.
little warmer. But at the same time, across the street at Safety City was the trick-or-treating. It was great exposure for ceasefire. A lot of people from that came over, got free hot dogs, pop, chips. Got to learn a little bit about that organization. Hopefully, new members eventually to join that. The original group of the youth that were here in this building were there. It was great to see them all again. And it was a great gathering of people. I think there was food bank collection. And was glad to be able to attend it and look forward to any future activities that you organize with that group. They're a nice young group of people. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Mr. Glenn?
Yes, I'd like again, thank you, Ms. Adams, for coming there and giving us that support, and Chief Martin, because it's very important that we support the kids. These kids want to make changes. They're ready to make changes in the community, and they're hungry for that. And I think all the support we had there, I'd like to thank my wife, and I'd like to thank Vicki Sherrills, who put so much work involved in this to make it happen. It was kind of cold, though, but we made it through it, though. And the food bank, they raised food for the food bank, too. So they got different projects they're going to continue working on. And I thank everybody. And second of all, I want to talk about on Nova Street. We had a guy there who refused to let anyone clean his yard out. And I'm so happy that I took the kids over there, and I asked him, I said, we don't have to report you to the city. We don't have to do all that. Let us come in there and assist you. So tomorrow he will allow us to do that. I know he's been reported already. I will be talking to Amy, and we're going to go and help him out a little bit there, because a lot of folks going to church in that area, too much stuff in the area. It's been continuing. We cleaned it up once before, and we had it again. We will be having our trick-or-treat. This is our second year we're having that this Saturday, right there at the old VF Post on 2nd Street. We're going to do it in the parking lot. So we're just trying to bring back and bring safety out there, and we're going to have a good time. It's the second year we're doing this, and I appreciate all the people in the area putting this together. This comes strictly from the people that live on the Union and the 3rd Street and the 4th Street. All of them want to come together and have a good time with the kids. So we want to make sure that happens. Also, we are working on putting together for all the neighborhood association presidents. I'm working on putting together, come December, that we're going to have a summit. Because we need all of you guys, we're trying to work to get everybody together now and build these neighborhoods back up again. I know it's going to take some time, though, but we got a lot of folks who want to get involved. So I'm going to be talking to some of the presidents, vice president, and some of the ones that's not active. We're going to start getting them back active again, because we got a lot of work in there. I know a lot of folks calling about where the president's at, and some don't have presidents right now, but they have folks in it. So we got some of the presidents doing double duties and stuff. But I want to thank Martin Luther King Neighborhood Association. They helped out. Thank you guys, too, because they're helping out the South Side. And we're just trying to make sure the neighborhood's in good shape. And also this winter, we are working on the paint program again and some housing issues that some of the folks having. I know we got people having problems with their roofings and different things like that. Them some of the things I'm going to work on this winter and trying to find ways that we can get these things fixed. Because some of the people, elder people, does not want to leave their home. They want to stay in their homes. And I don't blame them. So that's my goal. I got some plans that putting together and working with some groups in the Dayton area and Cincinnati area. We're going to get some going there. Thank you. And thank everybody for supporting ceasefire. Thank you. 100%.
Thank you, Mr. Glenn. Mrs. Miles?
Thank you, Mr. President. I had the opportunity this weekend to volunteer with the Maker Fest, which was Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And I just want to thank the Lima Link here for their initiatives. This was a huge event. It was well attended. On Friday, they had the high school students there, and then on Saturday, they had the adults there. And I thought it was a very worthwhile event and very well attended, by potential job seekers. When I volunteered for this responsibility here, I went through the orientation, and then they said that they would send you an assignment. And so I'm thinking, okay, I want to get a pretty easy job, as far as volunteer, like maybe passing out the food or registration or something like that. So when I got my assignment, they gave me the responsibility of being involved in the mock interviews. For those of you who are not familiar with it, they had extreme interview makeover team. And what this involved was actual HR personnel were involved in kind of getting the candidate, getting the interviewee ready for an interview, and then he would come to the actual person who would do the interviewing. The event on Friday was very nice. The kids did a good job as far as interviewing. But what probably left the biggest impact on me was Saturday when I interviewed the adults. And I was really surprised that so many of the adults who attended the event actually came and wanted to be interviewed. They wanted to know, to improve their interviewing skills. And I think I probably interviewed about 8 or 9 individuals here. But the one guy that kind of really stuck on my mind was a guy that had just got out of prison. He was released from prison in October of 2015, and he was at this interview. And he was telling me the difficult time that he was having trying to find a job. And this individual, he was probably in his mid-30s, and he was saying that he was very good with his hands and that he was really trying to find work here. He was not having good success in finding a job here. And this guy here, he really was sincere. He says, I am determined. I am never going back to that prison. He said, I will do whatever I need to do to support my son because I'm never going back there again. He said, I learned my lesson. He said, the unfortunate thing is that people think that by not hiring me that I have to go with the rest of my life, paying the price for what he did. And so with that in mind here, it really, all weekend I thought about this young man, his sincerity and his desire to become a productive citizen in his community. And so tonight here, I was over at the campaign over at the city building here for the individuals, the candidates that were being speaking tonight. And I talked to Dave Stratton over there. He's with the Lima Economic Development Group. And I said to him, I said, do we have a group here that maybe we could start or is already in motion that is strictly for those who are ex-felons? For those the non-violent felons. Because majority of the people that are felons, they have a drug conviction. And I'm saying, wouldn't it be nice if we can have like a session for these guys, women, who have a felon conviction, and then just take them through like a 2 or 3 week course to kind of get them prepared, to give them the resources that they need to be able to go out and try to find work. And then we would match them up with employers. After they have graduated from this program, then they would just be fitted into different businesses. There are a few businesses here like Lima Pallet that do hire felons here, but maybe if we take these felons through a program, a conditioning program, to get them prepared for the workforce and to groom them and give them the skills that they need, maybe we can get them into the community and to be productive citizens. Because there are some good individuals out there. They've made mistakes, they paid their price, and now they're ready to come into the workforce and to be able to be good citizens. And so I am going to pursue this because I talked to Dave Stratton. He said there's a program in Finley that is already in existence for felons. And I'm hoping that we can get something started here in Lima because I believe that there is a number of people, of felons, nonviolent ones that will be ready and will be willing to go through this program. And because a lot of them, you assume they know where to go, they know what they are to do to prepare themselves, but we can't assume that. If we want to make these individuals who will come back into the community to find job, to find work, and to be worthwhile individuals, then we need to help them. Just like we're helping these other individuals who are not skilled, we're helping them to be ready for the workforce. Let's get these ex-felons, let's get them prepared for the workforce and allow them to be productive citizens in our community. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mrs. Miles.
Great job.
Mr. President, just to comment on Mrs. Miles' suggestion. Actually, through the Ohio Means Jobs office, there are a variety of services available, including coaches who will work with individuals on exactly what you're describing, Mrs. Miles. They have the staff in place to be able to assist individuals who are needing to prepare resumes, who are needing to be coached through interviews, and assisted in finding employment opportunities. So I think that if you have the individual's name and you want to share that with them, it's immediately available.
Okay.
And they should be in touch with Ohio Means Jobs. The staff there will assist them on all that entire range of issues, including those that have felony backgrounds, drug-related conditions, and the like.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Gordon?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, just looking at these pictures with the kids and the chief, and I think the chief's the scariest looking monster in all these pictures. And the mayor's glad I'm not picking at him today. With that, trick or treat, it was already mentioned that it's Thursday, but just kind of want to remind folks to drive careful, drive slow, and watch out for all those little monsters out there. Some of them are my grandchildren, so I ask you please be careful. And the only other thing I have is to remind people to be good to each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Mr. President. A little under the weather today. I didn't get to say what I wanted to say tonight. I'll leave that for another day. Don't think I can make it through what I wanted to say. So for all of you out there, there'll be another day for the conversation I wanted to have, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Mr. Lowe?
Thank you. I only have one thing this evening, and I'm kind of glad to see our superintendent back there, because I hope she can weigh in on this. In the morning, when you are traveling east towards Lima Senior, and you're coming from up under the underpass, last year I asked for a study to be done. There's 2 lanes. 1 lane turns right onto Jackson, or you can keep straight. I wish there was a way that could be a turn lane only, because when they merge, it is chaos right there by the school. And I am so concerned about someone getting hit and hurt because they race to merge. And it was found that they did not need a light there, but I say they do. I've been traveling every school days for the last 7 years, 6 years. Some days it's extremely bad, and it's really bad if there's a train on the track at the other end in the morning or after school. The traffic jams up once that train leaves. I had made a proposal that there would be a light placed right there as the kids come out at the back parking lot. I don't care if it's right there as you turn into the school or if it's on the backside by the baseball diamonds, but one definitely needs to be there. And I would like to see that light placed and operating between the hours of 7 and 9 a.m. and between the hours of 2 and 4 p.m. But I'm going to get with Kurt Niemeyer again. What I did, I took it upon myself. I took some pictures, and I did some video of how bad everybody is merging, trying to hurry up and get in there. Last minute to school or last minute to work or whatever. Bottom line is, if they pulled in the way that I believe the school has it laid out, where you'd make a right and go to the back door and drop kids off, you're to continue around to the baseball diamonds and go out in front of the asphalt business. But that's not always happening. Some days it's extremely crazy, and other days it just flows. But there's individuals I've watched coming off of Pine Street, headed south on Pine, and they are trying to make a left on North Street. The way the street splits, you cannot see oncoming cars. Cars will stop to let you pull out, but as soon as you pull out, all you're hearing is brakes. It's extremely bad. And I do not want us to be reactive after a student gets hurt. There was a very bad wreck on the very first day of school. Okay? But I will be bringing once I get with Kurt Niemeyer, I will be bringing a motion to council. I'm letting you know now. I'm saying it like this because I want you to go out and actually look at it for yourself. And it's not just Jesse talking. But if you go over to Lima City anytime about 7:40 to about 5 after 8, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. Ms. Creer?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. A couple things tonight. I, too, was at the Safety City Trick or Treat this weekend, and I would like to thank the chief and then Major Kuhn, who is not here tonight. Major Kuhn was not in costume, and I was. I was sporting my Lima Fire Department gear, and he was in his regular uniform, and we attracted quite the crowd of kids staring at a council lady in a fire hat and a police officer, and it was a really fun time. If you have an organization or you're a public figure, I really encourage you to get out there and let these kids see you, shake your hands, talk to them. There were a lot of children, and it was great to interact with the parents as well as it was with the children. I can't encourage you more, and some of you are out of having the children phase, but for those of you, especially who have a heart for the future of America, this is where they are. They come to collect candy in their best costumes, and it was a great opportunity to reach out to the community. Also, Riverside North this Wednesday will be partnering with Red Cross, the Lima Fire Department, as well as our neighborhood police officers and a few other officers. We will be canvassing the Riverside North area and installing smoke detectors into homes that lack a smoke detector, or maybe their battery has died. This is a great program the Red Cross offers. They do the work, they help you gather volunteers, they supply all the tools, and it doesn't matter if you're a renter, a homeowner, there are no qualifications except if you are in need of a smoke detector, you can get a smoke detector. They also have a secondary availability for this program. They can leave a flyer at your door, and if you're not home and you'd like it to come back, you can. So for those of you involved in other neighborhood associations where you have people who have a heart for their neighborhood, for the city, I encourage you to contact the Red Cross. The Red Cross is on a campaign to reach a numerous amount of homes in the community, and the numbers can be staggering, especially that we're coming upon Thanksgiving. When people Thanksgiving, Christmas, when people like to light candles and be celebratory. And then we go into the cold season where people use not always the safest methods to warm their house. So you don't know if your neighborhood could suffer, if one of your neighbors could suffer from a violent fire that can be deterred. So I encourage you to do that. If you're living in the Riverside North area and you need a smoke detector, we'll be by through. And we don't just install a smoke detector, we also spend some time educating you, talking about what are some of the safe plans to help your family prevent a fire. And then lastly, I guess two things. Riverside North will be having our regular meeting, which will be November the 3rd at 7 o'clock. At the Red Cross, and this is our Thanksgiving potluck dinner. If you would like to come, all of you are invited. Just bring something.
Why you tapping me?
Because you're looking like you want to come.
You tap me 'cause I'm
okay,
big.
I know. So bring something. I will not be cooking, so it's going to be delicious. Bring a pie from your local grocery store or what have you, but it's going to be a good time. Riverside North, Red Cross on the 3rd. And then last thing, I just want to extend a hearty thank you. On Monday, I spent most of the day doing a ride along with my neighborhood COP officer, Justin Wireman. We had this experience where there were some kids just aggravating, and we stopped at the house. Nothing really came out of it. And then later on in the day, we circled back around, and he spent, I don't know how long, but a long time with these kids, talking to the parent, talking to the kids on the porch, really building relationships. Kids were coming and going, and he spent time with them. And not that other officers don't do that, but that's what I got from that ride along on Monday. I've done a lot of ride alongs, and every one of them I always learn something new. And for him, as a neighborhood police officer, that's his responsibility. He does it well, and I'm grateful to see that. I'm grateful that we have officers that take interest in our neighborhoods and are willing to circle back around and pay attention and not just, talk about rules and regs, but to get to know the kids, get to know the families, and find out what their needs are. And that was the one thing I walked away with on Monday. So I want to extend my thanks to the chief for letting me do that, but also my thanks to Officer Wireman for just a great experience on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anything this evening. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Mr. President,
Ms. Adams?
I move that council adjourn until Monday, November 7th
Second?
at 7 PM in these chambers.
Second.
The motion on the second is the Lima City Council will adjourn until November 7th at 7 PM. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries and we are adjourned.